And we're live. As usual, give me a minute to get everyone in and get everything set up. What's up, Angel? Thanks for joining. Angel, what's the date for is it May 13th? Maybe it's his. Okay, so May 13th. Okay, good. It is here. What's up,
Hey,
Nick? How you
how
doing?
are you?
I'm doing well.
Good
Thanks
to
for.
see you. It's been a
I
while.
know, right? I know. How you doing?
Living the dream. How about
All right.
yourself?
Same. Sports fan 145. Thank you for joining. Yep, just kind of grinding away.
Well, thank you
All
very
right.
much for bringing me
Oh
on.
yeah,
I've been
absolutely.
looking forward to this all week.
Thank you for jumping on and taking the time. So, usually we'll just let a couple people jump in here. AM Rogers 98. Thanks for joining. If I butcher your names off the bat, I'm going to apologize. And then I have a little thing I'll read off the top, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, absolutely. You're reading
Cool.
stuff off the top too. You've come prepared.
Oh man, been doing this for a little while, so it just makes the whole thing easier.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
It's pretty cool that you've built up a following for it though too.
Yeah.
Because when I started seeing the Bellwether ritual stuff coming out first, it was definitely on the smaller side, like we all start. But I've definitely
Oh,
seen it
of
grow.
course.
So
Oh, cool. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. It's been kind of an interesting thing. Like, we're trying to, like, during the pandemic, it's like, all right, well, how can we, like, reach out to people and connect with people without actually, seeing them face to face, which is the best way. But, especially when all the shows are shutting down and all that, it was a pretty crazy time.
yeah,
So, yeah, it was a good thing that came out of that.
definitely. I feel like
All
we're on the
right.
side of normalcy now, though.
Yeah. It's been feeling, although last week, guess what I had? COVID.
Oh yeah, really. And it still
Yeah, so I
sneaks
just got
around.
over it.
Still
Yeah,
sneaks
it
around.
was it was way different this time though. So yeah, we'll see.
Mhm.
All right, let's get started here. First of all, I just want to say welcome to all you guys. We appreciate you hanging out and talking with us tonight. Hello and welcome to the Bellwether Virtual Live Stream, where we discuss music, the local Lehigh Valley, PA scene, and beyond, social media, and more. Today is April 5th. My name is Mike, and I'm the vocalist and guitarist of Bellwether Ritual. Hope you had a good week. We have a show coming up May 13th, which we're really excited about at Jabberjaws in Allentown, PA. A really cool lineup of bands. I think there's about 6 bands. Fukang Walker, DHR, Typhoid Rosie, Galaxy Has Eyes, lots of good stuff. So come on out on May 13th. We would appreciate that. And yeah, should be fun. This week on the show, we have Nick Gorey of Crooked Ways, a hard rock band right here from Lehigh Valley, PA as well. They've performed alongside bands like Fuel, Vended, Orange Goblin, Sponge, and more, and just released a new single called Is It, which we're definitely going to talk about because there's some cool stuff going on in there. So I think some new stuff for you, um, branching out from what I've heard from the other stuff. And currently the band is finishing up the writing process on their third record, and we'll talk about all that and more. Nick, welcome to Livestream. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking
Cool,
forward to it.
yeah, absolutely. Is there anything, I know you have your new single out, is there anything else you want to plug right off the top for everyone?
We're actually announcing a show tomorrow. We're going to be playing at Dobbs during Dobbs in
Oh,
Philly.
nice. Yeah.
Um,
So breaking news.
we were originally booked there, but they just told us yesterday or today that it's going to be part of like a street festival. So they're going to
Okay,
have
cool.
the doors open and stuff. So we're going to be excited to announce that. So sneak peek to anybody who's listening. We have a new show coming up.
Awesome. Carl Ferrari, 0707 Carl Ferrari, thanks for
That's,
joining. Angel says
that's
nice.
my boy Steve. That's our drummer.
Nice. All right, cool, Steve. Thanks for joining, man. Maybe we'll talk some drums and a little bit later. I don't think so. We'll talk shredding and stuff like that. I think it's all guitar tone. I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah, fire away.
Yeah, okay, cool. You know, we played. I played Dobbs like a while ago when I used to live in Philly, and it was just cool. There's so many crazy bands have come through there, like Rage Against the Machine, Tool. Like you can go find all these old like amazing bands coming and playing that stage. So it's pretty cool that you get to do that as well.
It's nuts. Like Nirvana,
Hmm.
Green Day, I think we're on there too.
Yeah.
I'm a big, like, I don't want to say music history buff, but I'm definitely attracted to kind of the lore of things like that for sure. So that was
Hmm.
honestly a huge attraction to me.
Yeah, it feels like kind of an accomplishment when you can say that you've done something like that. Actually, you played a lot of really great venues and gigs and opened up for a lot of great artists. What's the secret there?
Yeah, honestly, it's funny you say that because I feel like I'm that kind of person that's never super happy with living in the here and now, and it's something that I got to get better at because it's super refreshing to hear you say that, and thank you for it. But it's
Hmm.
always like, that was awesome, but what can we do next? You
Hmm.
know, that's not, I can't even say there's a secret other than just flinging around a bunch of emails and reaching out to people,
Yeah.
just hoping for that one person who kind of gives us a shot.
Yeah.
And it just kind of snowballs into like this one person hears your music and then they'll pass it on to the next guy. Then it gives you that opportunity. And that's honestly literally like emails and Instagram direct messages is what it comes down to.
There you
But
go.
there are things like getting onto some bigger like national festivals that I would like to
Hmm.
see us try and do and things like that. So it's always like that was great, appreciate in the moment, but what else is next? So that's kind of where I'm always at. But again, thank you because it's cool to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a band, Nailbite, out of
Yeah,
I
but
think they're out west, right? What did they
yeah,
just play? They just
Mechanicsburg, I
played.
think.
Yeah, I want to say they played a festival that was pretty impressive. I can't remember what it was.
I'll have to check it out. I
Um,
know they were in the running for, I think it was like Sonic Temple in Ohio or something like that.
okay.
They were
Louder
trying to
Than
get
Life
on
comes to my
another one.
mind, but I'm not.
It might,
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's it or
yeah,
not.
it might be that
But it
one.
was cool. It
Yeah,
was cool to see.
they're solid. They've got a good following out there in Central PA too.
Yeah, very cool. Um, Zendino, I'm butchering your name. Sorry. Do you know these
And
people? Just call
Dino,
them out if they're joining. Yeah. Thank you for joining, man.
what's up?
Any questions for Nick? Drop them in the comments. We'll read them off and get to them.
Go for it. I
All
know
right.
it's
So,
hard for I know it's hard for multiple people from the band to jump in here, but Steve, if you have comments on anything too, throw it in there.
yeah, of course. All right. So, yeah, I didn't even know this, but are you from the area like originally, or did you move into the area? How'd that all
Yeah,
unfold?
born and raised in Nazareth, PA.
Oh,
I live in Bethlehem now.
cool. Yeah.
But yeah, always been in the area. Definitely, I, I'm not one of those people that are always like, there's nothing to do in the Lehigh Valley. I feel like there's always some of those that pop up, and I never understood that.
Hmm.
Honestly, I feel like I can strongly say like I am not going anywhere soon because I love the area. I think there's so much culture and everything
Oh
around here.
yeah,
So love
it's
it.
got a great spot too, like sweet spot right between Philly and New York City too. It's yeah,
Perfect.
good stuff. Yeah, if you're bored, then you're boring most of the time, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Esposito EG, thanks for joining. I'm not sure if I butchered your name as well. Is that
That's
your singer?
it. I know, Ed. How are you,
All
Mr.
right. Okay.
Esposito?
Cool.
Good to see you jumping in.
Okay. And then what is there? Was there something that like was the trigger that got you started into music? Was there a song or like someone in your family did it previously, or how'd you get in started there?
I'd say definitely my father, who was a musician and had played
Oh,
in
cool.
bands before I was born. My grandfather also, he was a mean violin player.
Ah,
So there was always music in my family. And I've thought about this before. I've been asked that before. And there was never a single moment where I was like, that's like, I want to play music. This is what I want to do. It was always just kind of there.
mm-hmm.
So it's always kind of what I did. I always enjoyed it. I was raised on Van Halen and
Mm-hmm.
Metallica and Def Leppard. Um, but my father gave me a guitar for Christmas when I was in fifth grade, so almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that might have been like the trigger to be like, all right, I'm going to actually play music. But I always took it in, and I always had done it in one way or the other. There's pictures of me when I'm 3 and 5 and 10 playing like little cheesy fake guitars. You know, before I even knew. So it was always just like a thing that happened for me. It wasn't like a conscious decision, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that gives you like a huge like head start too, you know,
Oh
especially
yeah,
when you stick with it. Yeah.
a good
Um,
DNA is always a very good head start.
yeah, yeah, that's
And
amazing to have that around. Uh-huh. Yeah, shredding out of the
shredding out the
womb.
womb, I was not shredding. I wasn't shredding my mother's womb. I was just shredding out the womb, and I didn't want to hurt her.
Yeah, that could be like a good death metal song though, I feel like.
Shredding the womb, yeah.
All right, and then so you're constantly in bands. Was that something you did right away? Did you like practice and get proficient at like guitar first, or you were like, nah, I'm just jumping right in and starting to play in
Yeah,
bands and write songs?
it was weird. It was definitely unorthodox for me personally. So I feel like a lot of people who were playing once I had started playing guitar in elementary school, I had a teacher who taught me like, oh, this is a ghost strum and like this is a basic power chord. But that was pretty much it. I kind of confined myself to my bedroom to doing it only because, again, just a natural thing that I had always done, and I don't know the best way to say it. I wasn't as proactive as, now I wish I was. I wish I had
Yeah.
jammed with more people, but I always knew in my head, like, I'm a guitar player. I play guitar, and that was pretty much it. But it wasn't until I was actually in high school that I ended up playing some acoustic stuff, like Cool News a few times with our singer, who's our singer now. At the time, I was like, yeah, that was cool. And then college, we in the same college, and then we consistently played acoustic shows all around our college, Kutztown. Didn't you go to Kutztown too? Yep.
No, I'm from Raymond, but yeah, yeah, I have a lot of connections to they have a really good design program, like art and design
Oh
program.
yeah, yeah. That's why I
So
thought you might have
yeah,
been there.
yeah,
Um,
no,
but
but yeah.
yeah, so there's a bunch of acoustic stuff, and Crooked Ways is honestly the only real band that I've been in. I've jammed with people a few times, like
Oh,
people
cool.
in high
Yeah,
school who have come, like by the house and stuff like that. And we tried to start like fake bands, like sometimes, how
I
it's
do.
cool in like middle school or high school to be like, oh yeah, I'm in a band, but you
Yeah.
play like in your basement one. But that was it. Yeah, only because it was always just this subliminal thing that I was a guitar player, and that was kind of it. So in ways, a lot of it is still kind of new to me.
So yeah, it's interesting. And you've been together about 5 years, right?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, about exactly. It's been about 5 years since we've kind of been like official. Whenever the Facebook page went up is probably,
That's how you make it official. Yeah,
exactly.
it's like a relationship. Yeah.
Mhm.
Brooke Gorey, thanks for joining.
That's my wife.
Cool. Shout out to Brooke. Okay, so what would you say are some of the like secrets? I don't want to say secrets, but like what are your things that you do as a band to stay together for 5 years? Because I've been in a whole bunch of bands, and some have lasted a couple of months, and some have lasted a couple of years. But I
Yeah.
feel like everyone's got it. Yeah, go ahead.
I like that question a lot. Thank you for asking that because it's something that,
Hmm.
that I think a lot, and it always makes me sad when there are other bands in the area that we really like that we see just not
Yep.
stay around as long.
Hmm.
One, I think it's luck because it's hard. It's really hard to find four guys who just really enjoy what they do. We went
Hmm.
through a bunch of drummers before we found Steve, so we do know what
Yeah.
it's like to have like that one piece that isn't quite fitting.
Hmm.
Um, but I think the biggest part is that like well, most of us were all friends before we were even in this band. Me,
Hmm.
Zach, our singer, Pat, our bass player, all went to Kutztown together. I've known Zach since high school, but we all went to Kutztown together. We were in the radio station club
Hmm.
that they
Hmm.
had there,
Hmm.
had radio shows there. So we were kind of hanging out even before the band, and we were already friends. And then we found Steve, our drummer, who is just like the perfect fit. Like it pisses me off that I didn't know him before we had the band because we would have had so
Yeah.
much fun together, like in high school, middle school. Like he just gels
Hmm.
perfectly. And I think that's it. Honestly, like we're just lucky enough that we are four dudes with very similar personalities and interests, and we just gel really well. Like, there's no ego whatsoever. We just all enjoy playing music, and that's really what it comes down to. It's not like one guy has different goals or aspirations than the other guy, and there's like big creative, fights or anything like that. We're just all pretty easygoing about a lot of it.
So that's a great point. So when you're songwriting, is that something that's done as a group? Do people bring like riffs or whole songs, or is it all over the place? How does that work usually?
It can be all over the place. There's a lot of stuff that will kind of originate. I keep looking at it. We're in like or I'm down in our kind of practice
Cool.
session right now. So
Yeah.
this is where like we'll kind of throw some ideas around, and it starts either from like a simple jam or riff idea, or people like whoever in the band saying like, "Oh, I would love a song that does this."
Oh,
I pride
cool.
myself on like if somebody just offhandedly like in a car like right before a show says like, "Oh, I'd love to have a song that does this." If I have a Google Doc, I write it down, and then I'll
Oh
go
yeah.
and I'm always subconsciously taking all of the thoughts and ideas, and then what usually happens is I will put together a demo. I'll just like, together a basic drum track and some guitar parts, and then kind of be like, "Here, do you guys like this?" And I would say 9 times out of 10, they're kind of like, "Yeah, that's good." But
Yeah.
I try to subconsciously, think of all the things that I know they have said they would want to do, and like before I bring something to them, we kind of just go from there. We've never been the kind of band, I will say, that sits down and is like, "All right, let's write a song today." Like, I can't say we've ever really been like organically putting something together. Like, it's
Yeah.
usually like, "All right, we have some pieces, let's go individual ways, work it out a little, and then like Slater or something like that."
I like that. Yeah.
How do you
Um,
guys do
oh
it?
man. So right now, I have like basically like a little practice room. We have an electronic drum kit, and then we all run modelers into my computer, and then we'll just record like 3 hour blocks of our rehearsals, and then from there,
Mhm.
similarly, like the ideas will either build up. Sometimes there is some really great spontaneous things that happen. It's just to me, it's trying to record as much as possible without going too crazy over it, so that you can listen back and just kind of, I don't know, pull the good stuff out of it and stack it up similar to like you're saying. But is everyone a
Right.
writer on your side, or is it? I love how. Oh, that's what I wanted to say too. I love how you like. A lot of our stuff comes from like, all right, someone will have a riff or a jam, and we'll start working on it, and we'll kind of build it up from that. And I love how it's like kind of reversed, where you're saying like, um, people are requesting certain things, and you're taking that as a starting point. I love that. I have tried to
Yeah,
do that a couple times. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say it's interesting. I will say songwriting is probably like my top like favorite thing to talk about
Let's
is
do
like in general.
it.
So
Yeah.
I'm super interested. I'm super interested to hear how you do it, and it's funny because there's no wrong way. Um,
Yeah.
happens differently for different people. Like some people are just very organic, like let's get it in the moment. But ours is, I don't want to say it's planned out, but there's more of like a just kind of like this for us that works that
Yeah.
we kind of go by. And yeah, everyone definitely writes. Like you would be, some people might know that like there isn't a sole like lyricist in the band. Like different
Oh, cool.
members write different lyrics for different songs. And if you really pay attention, you might be able to tell, like, oh, this song's lyrics are really different than this one. Like, this guy might have wrote that one.
Mm.
But yeah, everybody writes different lyrics. Everybody writes, like, their own parts once it comes to it. If anything, it's usually, like, with, with like, a general beat or guitar riff. I
Yeah.
can't say it's ever really been like, oh, there's a melody or anything that we want to build around. I'd say it's usually kind of the rhythm that comes first.
Are you? like I'm habitually recording riffs. Like if I'm playing, I just have my phone on me, just use the recorder on there, and I'm just anytime there's like, oh, that's kind of cool. I can probably do something with that. It just gets recorded and logged, and make funny names for them, and come back to them later. Is that something you do, or?
Do you do the funny name thing? I like how
Oh
some
yeah.
people like keep the from like
Sometimes
those
I get through.
from those scratch recordings, and like that ends up being the song name.
Hmm.
Mine are usually just like the numbers of the recordings or things like that. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's like how most people do it now. Like you watch interviews with names out there, and it's
Hmm.
so funny to hear like these music gods who are like, this originated from like the voice notes app on my phone. So yeah, everyone does it. I think
Yeah.
it's super cool. It'd be interesting to know like what bands like the Beatles or like Led Zeppelin and that like back then had they had like the technology we have now.
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing for me, especially because I was pre the whole true like breakthrough of technology, and now I'm like completely converted over to like what I try to focus on. I don't even own an amp right now. I'm just really running to the computer and making it as easy as possible to get as close as I can to creating something that I want to hear, and then I'll figure the rest out, when it comes to playing live. Uh, Carl
Right.
Ferrari,
I,
Nick
I
has a
think.
great. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was reading that too.
Go,
Thank
go ahead. I was just gonna
you,
read.
Steve, for a great ear.
Yeah.
Steve just has a great ear in general. Steve has a great everything. That's the only compliment I have for him. Did I see you post that
That's a
the
pretty good
Bethlehem
compliment.
Public Library
Yeah, man.
recording? Do you go there a lot? How does that work?
No. So I forget how did I even hear about. Oh, so I went to go see a show at the Bethlehem Public Library. Wipes was playing, and a couple of other bands from upstate New York, I think. And Josh Burke,
Dude, she was
who's
there. That's cool.
yeah, yeah, Josh Burke. He runs kind of the library, and I met him at that show, and he was like, "Oh, did you know we have a recording studio in the basement?" I was like, "At a library?" He's like, "Yeah." So that kind of piqued my interest, and then I had like a 2 week break at the end of this past year, around the holidays. So I'm like, "Oh, what the hell? I'll go book this thing and shoot some video and just see how it goes." And ended up, getting maybe like two or so vocal tracks um, out of it, which is awesome. And it was free, and they have great gear there, and yeah, it's really cool. So I think we're
Yeah,
gonna try to
that's
put it.
so awesome. Like it's great. They need that in more places, honestly.
Like I was thinking, if I had that when I grew up, oh my God, just access to it. You don't even need the gear anymore. It's just you need the access to it, and you can do some amazing things. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. We're
absolutely.
gonna look. We're gonna look to. They're doing some like reconstruction stuff right now, but after that, we'll maybe see if we can book a show there. Maybe we can get you involved in that one if you'd be interested.
That's
But yeah, that'd
awesome.
be fun.
Rocking the library.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird to see a show in a library, but it was really cool. There's some heavy shit too. So, all right,
That's awesome.
let's stick on the songwriting for a little bit. So your new single is it, right? And
Mhm.
I was listening to it, and there is a sample like in
I
the
will
middle of
say,
like a.
sorry to cut you off. I will say that you start to break up a little bit on my side. It's kind of going in and
All
out. I can
right,
I
same
can
same
mostly
here.
see you, but can half hear.
Okay. Same here. So if we have to jump off and jump back on, we can do that. But we'll just keep our fingers crossed in the meantime.
Yeah.
All right.
No, it seems like it's pretty good right now.
Okay, cool. So your new single is it? And there's some really cool. I don't know if this is new for you guys or not, but like you have some like scratching in there, but then you also have this sample, like everything breaks, and then you play like I don't know what is it, like a voice recording sample in the middle of it.
Yeah, yeah. So it is. It's funny because that seems to be the one thing that people keep. Uh, the voice that happens in the middle is just from an app on our phone. It's not like
Oh, cool.
you know standard Siri or anything like that. It is literally just like lady like robot app. So and also the DJ scratches that we have on there, people have been like, "Is that? It sounds like like a like a I forget what they said, like a can or something like that." And I was like, "No, that's a scratch." But yeah, it was fun to throw in some more production based, I guess.
Yeah.
Something I haven't really done too much before. It's kind of just been like straight in, mixing it up a little bit. That's always kind of been what we're about. We all have very different musical interests, so it's kind of fun to bring it to the table. And like, this song's going to be a metal song, and this next song is going to be kind of like classic rock. This one's going to be hard rock. Just kind of satisfies that creative itch that you have, and it gives you the ability to play a different variety of shows too.
That's a great point, and have like set up kind of multiple sets. So you can have like a super heavy set, like more, I don't know, pop, hard rock leaning set, all that kind of stuff. It's a great point. You brought up something that I quick took a note of. You said, and we have this. I would say it's a little bit of a problem actually. It's like you have all these different ways you can go. It's like, how do you group songs together to go like, all right, this is the direction we're going to head at least for now.
Good question.
You,
I think I think it just kind of happens organically. There's never really a process for saying, hey, this is going to be a metal song, or this is going to be a classic rock song. It's just kind of, again, going back to like the specific parts that people call out. Sometimes it'll just build around that. Yeah, there's really no method to the madness. Just comes out. Thing. We just know that we like to diversify it a little bit, because like, my favorite albums are the ones that don't have a cohesive sound to it. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Avenged Sevenfold, but they're self-titled.
Yeah,
all right, I was gonna say, they're self-titled out 2007 is personally my favorite album ever, and I think that's because every single song is so different. Like, there's some country on there, there's heavy metal, there's kind of a lot of like pop sounding stuff, and I thought that was like the cool thing in 2008 when I first heard it. And I don't know if I'm subconsciously channeling that or what, but I always just thought that was a great formula. It keeps it as opposed to just hearing, it's great when bands sound cohesive band, but on an album when most songs same, it's personally harder for me to get into.
interesting. Unknown 66, thanks for joining. Tony Music, thanks for joining. If you have questions for Nick, you can drop them below and we'll get to them. Yeah, speaking of new, I was never really into Avenged. Our first drummer, his favorite drummer, and like what he did, like he looked up to was the Rev, so that was an influence, I guess, on his drumming. I did hear their new single though, and I thought that was pretty cool. Like, it had this like kind of really low, slow bend to it, and then kind of goes completely, I don't know, like classical or something in the solo section, from what I can remember.
Yeah, it's all over the place. It's super interesting. I personally can't say it's my favorite, but I will always appreciate the artistry that they have behind it, and that they are push the boundaries a little bit. If you listen to any interview by them, they always say, they don't want to be a cookie cutter band, so in the sense that they are trying to do something different and to kind of go against the grain a little bit, even though it's not necessarily handy for everybody. I do think it is cool to doing. Very interested to sound like, but I think creatively, all how they're trying to push boundaries.
So, we just our new drummer Brenton, he works in Soundmind up in Strasbourg, and they mixed that record, I believe. So I would love to put you two together. You could and pick each other's brain on that one because that it sounds great, and they've been putting out some great local stuff too for quite a while. So it's cool to see them get that kind of attention.
What's his name again?
Brenton.
Brenton? Is he going to be here or be there Saturday? Because I'm actually recording a song there on Saturday.
Probably, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was because I'd seen that Avenged was there probably September, October.
Yeah.
And that exposed me to the studio. And I had heard of it, but I didn't realize how neat it was. And I love working in the studio. It's like people are always like, "What do you like better, live or studio?" Studio might kind of win it for me. I've always been just drawn to the creative side of it. So once I was like, my favorite band was up there. Like it just looks like a super creative space. I'll get something in there. So yeah, I'm actually recording something up there on Saturday.
Awesome. Gavin Crafton, thank you for joining. JMZ 1994, thank you for joining. Is it like under wraps right now, or is it like for another project, or anything you want to talk about, or not really?
Yeah, it's part of the record. They're all, it's like 8. Yeah, I think it's 8 songs that we have for the record right now. And part of it, like I said, I really try and do stuff that's different, even if it's not necessarily for the band. Like certain guitar solos, I want to play a little bit differently to kind of serve that creative itch. But recording in some different studios is something that I really wanted to do too. So we always have our home base at King Studios in Allentown. We love it there. It'll be fun to check out Soundmine. And then actually what I'm most excited for later in the year is I'm recording a song in Abbey Road Studios in London later this year.
Wow.
I'm just going to go over there for a personal trip and need to make it. Like, how many times am I going to be in London while also making a record? So I lined up in there too, which I'm really excited about. So.
Oh man, that's awesome. I would. I'm sure you're gonna like video it and release it, but yeah, that sounds awesome. Very, very cool. Yeah, Angel says, "Wow."
Yep, super excited.
Um,
Hi, Angel.
let's see.
Thank you for helping
I wanted
to organize all this together too.
Very much so. Thank you for shouting her out because I do too. Because that I couldn't do this. I tried. It didn't work. Let's see here. So let's talk about I'm gonna go back to songwriting a little bit and even recording since you're still in the midst of that. So your new single. Can you talk about like the creative process for that? Was that something that you brought the riff in and went from there?
Yeah, this one actually started more with a lyrical idea first, not but the concept. Sometimes it starts with riffs. Sometimes it's more based off of the end. This one, I kind of had the idea of what I wanted the song to be about and built around that. So the tone of the song was meant to serve a certain purpose. It was meant to be more in your face, kind of express a little bit more frustration, I guess you could say. But it started with idea first, and then the riff, and then I think I put together rough melody ideas, and then our singer Zach definitely ironed them out a lot more. But a lot of I'm trying to think. I think a lot of the rhythmic stuff stayed the same. I'll use like basic drum tracks from YouTube. To be honest, I don't know if purist songwriters would get mad at me for that. But when I put something together, I usually have a drum beat in mind or like a certain tempo. Sometimes certain drum parts that I know I want to incorporate, and I'll find a drum track on YouTube that is similar to what I want. Or sometimes it's a drum track from other songs, and I'll piece them together. There's an app called I forget what it is, Steve. If you're still in here, put it in the chat. But there's an app that'll separate the drums, guitar, bass, and vocals from, so you can actually export each piece separately.
Wow.
It's amazing technology just on your phone. but sometimes I'll hear songs of similar tempos. I was like, yes, that's like the chorus, and I'll take that. Only because I'm not proficient enough in like Pro Tools yet or anything like to program drums myself. I could do it, but it'd be very basic and not quite what I wanted. All these pieces together, put the guitars over it in a demo, and then I'll kind of put it out to everyone, and they'll kind of fine tune the pieces I had. It just so happened that this particular song, me putting together like rough melodies and whatnot, only because I did.
Okay.
Usually the songs that I have like a very specific vision for, a really strong thought for like this song should be this. That I'll try to put together some lyric ideas or melodies for it. But then everybody always will just the nonsense that I put out there. Moises, yes, the app, Steve. Moises, it's awesome app. We love it.
All right, cool. Go check that out. Let's talk a little bit about guitars. Since we're in songwriting, I want to talk about tone, because your tone is like huge and I feel like very upfront. I don't know, what are you using to get that kind of tone out of, like what's your gear setup?
So for live, generally I'm a very simple person. Steve is like so much production stuff and all the like. This is the mastermind behind like 90% of our show. Like he's got really introduced us into like click tracks, so we could put like the samples in there, like that robot voice in the single. Steve makes all that happen. I personally just listen to what he says, and I know what I'm doing. Like I like my pedal board, my combo amp, and my guitar. But that's it. Like I try not to get it too much. So when I'm playing live, it's just an EVH 5150. It's called the Iconic Series combo amp.
Yeah.
And that thing alone has one that I've always wanted, and I don't add any extra effects to it. Just the tone that comes straight out from the amp is always what I wanted. Also, in the recording, I forget what version of the amp it is, but it's another EVH amp. My tone as a whole is an EVH tone. Because Eddie Van Halen is one of my favorite guitars ever. I don't know how awkward that is for people who aren't fans of Eddie Van Halen to use like a bunch of Eddie here, because so many people do it. It's so quality.
Brown sound,
but it's brown sound. Yeah. The cool thing about that amp is that it's got 3 different settings where it has like kind of like the overdrive metal. Mostly what I use, just because it has so much punch to it, and then it also has like a specific brown sound channel to it,
cool.
which is really cool. So it like just like a switch of a button, it has that original like brown sound tone that he would use on a bunch of the earlier stuff. So yeah, it just does the job for me.
Very cool. Did you ever jump in on the brown sound, like just for like a solo or something? Justin Fulmore Photography, thanks for joining.
I hadn't, no. And honestly, there's probably a bunch of stuff that our producer Justin adds to it, even after I record it. I always tell him, I was like, reamp it and mix the EVH sound. But he might. It's very possible he'll throw in like a bit of like, who knows, like a Marshall or like a diesel amp or something, or some amp sims, just to give it like a certain effect. But I would say like 98% of it is definitely all the way through for the most part. Most of our songs are pretty high gain, kind of in your face, especially on our newest metal influence. So again, it comes back to the simplicity of it. I'm not pushing through tones like crazy or anything like that. Even for our live, kind of turn it up, put on the distortion channel, and that's it.
So very similarly live, or in the studio, I'm like, we'll do this, like fuzz on this track, and I'll roll back the distortion a little bit on this one, and blah 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 blah. And then live, I just set it and just play, and Yeah, I have enough to do besides like trying to flick through pickup selectors and stuff. I wish I could, but it's not happening. So yeah. How about guitars?
No, exactly.
Oh, sorry.
Which guitar?
Yeah, so you were on a PRS recently. That's a little bit different for you.
Two studio guitar. That's
Okay, cool.
uh, our producer Justin's. Live again. I have a guitar that I use, and the secret to that is it's a guitar. It's a Schecter, a
Hmm.
Schecter Avenger Hellraiser.
Yep.
I'm so bad at like, caring about like all the specs of everything. Like I really don't even know. It's like a Schecter Avenger or a Hellraiser,
Okay.
maybe both. But the secret to that is I keep it in drop D, but I
Hmm.
have a drop pedal. I'm not sure if you've
Oh,
ever used one of those
I,
before.
no, that was gonna be
Probably
one of
my
my questions.
favorite thing.
Cool.
What
So
what what
what
was that?
key? No, that was going to be one of my questions because I was like, all right, they're definitely not in E or standard, any kind of standard tuning. I sounded pretty low. My guess was maybe C or B. I don't know. Do you remember what the key is for is it?
Is it is it's really low. I want to say it's like drop. It's
Oh, even lower. Okay, cool.
yeah, it's definitely the lowest song that we have. I honestly couldn't even tell you for sure because on the drop it's just number 5. So it like number one, each each number is a half step down. Number I keep
Okay.
it in drop D. So then number 1 is D flat, number 2 is C, and then it goes on from there. And that's just like
Mm,
how rudimentary we are. Like I know it sounds like I know which number
that's
the
okay.
drop pedal,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just to keeping it simple because I don't want to bring 8 million guitars because almost like literally all of our songs are in different tunings and it would be a nightmare
Hmm.
to change. So I
Hmm.
bring one guitar and a drop pedal just switches through all of them and it's just that easy. And honestly, there are purists out there who probably wouldn't like it, but would never
Who
know that there is like a
cares?
slight
Yeah.
difference in tone.
Yeah. Who cares?
So
Um, that's interesting. I'll have to check that out. Was that a recent one? Because I did see some like some tutorials of people walking through some of those, or is that something that's been out for a while?
what is the name of the company? It's like Tech. It's red and it has an arrow on that. I'll say that. Tektronic, Tektronic or something like that.
Hmm.
I forget the exact name, but if you just Google drop pedal, it'll come up.
Hmm.
It's like the brand for drop pedals. It's one of the only ones that does it. But yeah, it's bright red and has an arrow on it. 150 bucks. It's super helpful. I haven't seen more people use it. I still see a lot of like bigger bands switch guitars. But I was always like, why even bother? Are
Yeah,
you a pedal board guy yourself, or do you have something like a Helix or a
that's
Kemper
exactly what I
or
have.
anything like that?
Yeah.
You have a Helix.
So I have the stomp like the bigger stomp. So I needed more buttons, but I really feel like even that's even too much for me anymore. I never grew up with like effects pedals or anything. I barely like the guitar was like pretty much all I had. I didn't even have an amp for a while, so it was just that was interesting because I feel like it made me rely on actually the notes you're choosing and that and how you're actually playing it, which is cool. But
Yeah.
recently, I got into the modeler side of things because I feel like the tones there now. Not that they weren't before, but like I guess I was. I don't know if I would say I was a purist because I hated lugging amps around too. I really got great tones out of them. I go and I can plug the stuff in here, and in
Hmm.
like a couple minutes, it's like, wow, that's pretty good, and it's inspiring to play too, which is like the most important thing. So, yeah, I kind of switched over to as digital as possible. But yeah, I love that you're not afraid
So
because a lot of people do get like that, right? It's just like, ah, I'm not gonna do that or try that. It's like whatever gets you the sound.
exactly, and so I'll say I wasn't gonna take us down a rabbit hole, but since we're kind of going there anyway,
Let's go.
literally just today, literally today, I just actually bought the Boss Core 1000 or GT 1000
Oh,
Core.
cool.
It's the
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's the equivalent to the I was between those
yeah.
two for months, and I finally decided to pull the trigger on the boss, it's my first time even like dipping my toes into like the but it would be nice to be able to switch easily between like clean patches and stuff like that. And just for some fun, it seems super versatile. I'm glad to hear another positive review from you on it. Like, the feel of it has been like for any kind of amp modeler, like it doesn't feel the same. So interested to see what it's like.
But to me, it's close enough that it's like worth all. There's so many upsides that it just makes it worth it. And like I said before, it really was a game changer for me in a lot of ways. And one of the biggest ones was it like made it fun again, because you can just kind of quickly click through some things and get like really inspiring tones pretty quickly. So yeah, let me know how it goes.
What was the learning curve like?
Oh, that was brutal. Oh my God.
Oh no, not
because really you have to plug it in and use the computer, and there are like options for everything. So I originally wanted the what was the other one? I think it's bigger in Europe, but it had like a capture device in it too. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But oh, really quickly, Iron02, thanks for joining. He's singer at Raspy and Jake. They were on last week and that was fucking awesome. Make sure you check them out. And Rips86X, thanks for joining. Yeah. What was the one? Shoot, Neural DSP. I was like, I'm gonna save up for this thing, and they were like having supply chain issues or some shit. So I was like, all right, I'll just see what else is out there. And really, I spent half the money and got way more than I ever needed. So I don't know what I was thinking originally, but I was like, this is a great starting point. I've used it live like regularly. I'll just plug directly into the board. They can mix it however they want, back into in-ears or through traditional monitors. It's really been great for us. So yeah.
That's awesome. Like half the things that you just said, Steve's comment has it covered. Like he's got me for the learning curve. I do. Anytime I have tech issue, I'm like, Steve, can you help me figure this out? Like I don't.
So awesome, man. Yeah.
I just like to plug it in and play it. That's it. I've never been good with and never just like had the attention span for learning like so much of the text. But he's just like the god when it comes to that stuff. He saves my ass and probably everyone else's asses than we could count. So we appreciate him.
Yeah, shout out, because that is a brutal thing. I feel like I'm a reluctant techie. Like I have to figure this out because I want to do this. And then over the years, it's just been kind of building like that. But it's great to have someone like that to just take care of everything. Whew.
I try not to be.
Steve, were you like a tech person off the top?
I try not to be dependent.
Go ahead.
What was that?
Go ahead.
I just your question.
I was actually going to ask Steve if he was like a tech head from like the start, or if there's something that got it into him. But yeah, cool, Rusty.
Thanks for that, man. I heard that question. You started breaking up again.
No, I'm just commenting on some of the comments down there. No worries. I don't know why the connection is not as good this time. Let's see. We have about 10 minutes left. So, engineered in studios. All right, cool. That's what so very similarly, our drummer, who you'll meet this weekend, most likely, Brenton, has come in and I've just been able to be like, hey, here's a rough mix. Can you master this? And in like 2 minutes is back in my inbox. Like, I can get used to this because it's just brutal to have to do all that yourself. Yeah. All right. Let's see what else. Can we touch on shredding a little bit? I'm not a shredder. How can I start getting into shredding?
It's like that's the word that people usually describe me by, and to a point over time is like as my musical interests have changed, where sometimes to me it's almost like a derogatory term. Yeah. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, because I'm like, I don't want to be the guy that people think of like, oh yeah, he's just gonna play fast with like no feeling to it. So in the past, like I'd say maybe 2 years, I've really gotten into a bunch of like jazz
Oh, cool.
fusion kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
there's a bunch of stuff that I've been doing on the side that I don't really have the means to put into like a Crooked Way song.
Hmm.
That kind of turns me into more of like like I want to be able to like easily jam with people and not be like the douchebag who's just like flinging notes all over you. So it's always just been naturally what comes out,
Uh-huh.
honestly.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, if you're wondering about this, the secret, like I said, I went to a guitar teacher who had taught me like basic chords and stuff like that. But the lead stuff, the solo stuff, was always me. I never had a lead teacher, and
Hmm.
the only single entity or person that I could go back to is Sinister Gates
Hmm.
from Avenged Sevenfold Again. When their self-titled album came out, it was probably like 2007, 2008 when I was really like, all right, I want to actually get good at playing some of this stuff. At the time, I would just put on YouTube videos, and I might have used some tabs. I can't remember if those
Hmm.
sites were good enough at that point. But I would just push myself to try and learn the solos, even if they weren't good. I would at least learn where the notes were, and I would just keep trying to play the placement of the solos over and over again, which again is very unorthodox because I feel like a bunch of people who are actually good guitar players will play to a click and they'll run a bunch of like scales and exercises and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But that was never like same thing with the tech. I never had the patience for it. So I just jumped right into it. I was like, I want to play this. I want to play this right now. So I just literally like learned how he was playing the solos, and I would just like my practice was like playing the solo to Afterlife faster and faster and trying to get closer and closer to actually making it accurate.
Hmm.
It kind of it had helped because I got better at like playing fast really quick, but in the long run, it might have hurt me a little bit because I wasn't learning any of the theory or anything behind it. So like when I was
Hmm.
first starting, I learned that solo, but then if you wanted me to play something fast, I would only play that solo. So I had spent a long time trying to break out of just like simple boxes, and I've probably had a slower learning curve on guitar than most people because I'm mostly self-taught, at least for a lot of the lead stuff.
Hmm.
And I'm still like to this day trying to find out like how can I stop doing like this thing that I've been playing for like 5 years. How do I stop doing that? Like what can I
Hmm.
turn it into? It's I love guitar though because it's a like you'll never know everything and it's just a
Yeah.
never-ending process. So I love that aspect to it. But yeah, there's no secret. I think everybody does it differently.
Absolutely. Johnny the Philosopher, thanks for joining. I hope you're well, buddy. Yeah, and you know what's great about guitar is the same guitar can be sitting on the rack and like one person picks it up and it sounds one way and then you can hand it to somebody else and the same thing sounds like completely different because you can put so much of your personality into it. There's
Mhm.
so many little variables in there that'll just never quite sound the same. So
I
I
always
always
heard
love that about that.
a great story about that. Unfortunately, it was right after Eddie Van Halen passed, I think. But
Mm,
Brian May from Queen said he was backstage with Eddie once, and that they might have been opening up for one another. I can't remember, but Eddie Van Halen played Brian May's guitar, and Brian May played Eddie Van Halen's guitar. Two completely distinct sounds, very different.
yeah.
And they said once they did that, they each sounded like their own instrument, which I always thought was really interesting and just speaks to exactly what you just said. Like it's all about the feel at the end of the
Mhm.
day.
Yeah, it's cool to hear. I didn't mean shredding in a derogatory term either before,
No, no,
but I feel
I'm not
I
saying
know,
you, but I don't
but
take offense.
I feel like there is a thing though for guitar players of like how much of the technical versus the feel or whatever else you want to call it are you, that kind of thing. Idle Existence, thanks for joining. Um,
What are you? What are you? What do you consider
oh,
yourself?
I'm way more feel. I would love to try to get like some speed up, I would say. I like the groove aspect of it, so I'm much more content to kind of like get a good groove going and like really sit in it. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think our thing is always we try to be simple as possible, but then you have your like you can't all dance at once. It looks like a mess, right? So one guy's
Yeah.
got to step forward and do a thing, and then he steps back, and then the other guys, you know, you got to support each other in that way. You just can't all, at least in my experience, you can't just all go off all the time,
Yep.
unless that's the
I hear
look or the thing.
I hear the groove in all of the Bellwether. So I
Oh,
think
cool.
there's two songs on Spotify that I've listened
Third,
to before.
third coming
What
up soon. Yeah,
that are coming out soon, and
yeah,
I love the grungy, just like there are songs like that that I feel like are harder to come by nowadays. Like, because a lot of it is like, let's come up with a radio sound that'll sound good on like Octane or whatever it is.
yeah, yeah.
But I'm always a huge fan of just like the raw, kind of unfiltered. Don't say it in like a derogatory way, but like
No, no.
that local band sound because it just
Yeah.
has so much like feel and emotion to it.
That's the goal ultimately, right? It's like, oh, that's what I wanted to say before. I feel like uh, I took lessons and scales and all the theory and shit like that. And at one point, I was like, I'm just gonna. You have to. For me, it was like you have to learn stuff, but then you got to forget it and throw it away, and then go by feeling mostly. Like just go by ear and go by feeling, and that's the kind of the best thing. Because when you think about it too much, uh, it becomes noticeable that you're thinking about it too much. I feel like.
Yep, that's what being a musician is.
Or do you ever hit like do you know like I know you know this, but like have you ever been like that the whole flow state and like have you ever experienced that in a band situation where like everyone's kind of you just kind of almost like take a step back and just let it happen?
In jams, certainly.
Oh,
Live is hard because we don't really have any like jams that like we'll play to some clicks and things like that to use. So we're kind of nailed in on exactly what we're going to do live. But jamming, yeah, definitely. Especially, I will say too, and not just because he's in here, but when me and Steve tend to jam, like
yeah.
he's like one of the few drummers I've ever played with that like every time I do it, like we can pretty much feed off of each other really well, and we could probably go for a long time too. And that doesn't always happen. So it's always good to have those people in the band who speak the same musical language
Yeah.
as you can.
And chemistry is such a huge thing too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for the
Uh,
comment, Johnny the Philosopher. Both of your bands know that. We really appreciate that.
Thanks, dude. All right. There was something I just wanted to touch on, but what were we just talking about? Shit. We're just about to wrap up, and I had one last thought there, but yeah, actually, we're just about at time. So, is there anything else? Like, let's just plug everything else again that you want to plug, and yeah, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, well, we are Crooked Ways, Bethlehem based. We are currently working on our third record. We're going to be playing our next show in Philadelphia at Dobbs on South on Saturday, May 6th. And right now, that is pretty much all that we're able to put out there. We should have another few shows coming up in the summer, but for the most part, yeah, we're just finishing up the record in the studio. That was kind of our main thing this year, doing shows every now and then we'll be able to start playing more to start pushing it. But yeah, for right now, if you follow us on the socials, Crooked Ways Band, you'll see probably a new show announcement tomorrow or the following day.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Nick. We'll have to do this again because I can just keep going.
Oh, me too.
You
Not,
know,
I'm
yeah.
disappointed it's ending. We should definitely
Yeah, I
line something
know.
up again with
So
the
let's we'll get back into it and we'll just do the next thing. What is the new record called? Real quick, Johnny the
what's the new,
Philosopher jumping
new
in.
record
Patty
called?
D. Also, thank you for joining.
The new record right now, the working title that we've pretty much, I don't know if it's official yet. I personally really like it. Is called No Design. We haven't stamped it and put it in stone yet, but that's kind of what we've been running with, just kind of based off of everything that we've said so far. Like a lot of this stuff just kind of happens organically, not with much of a purpose. It's just kind of like what comes out, and so yeah, we just felt like No Design was fitting.
There you go, Johnny the Philosopher, getting some breaking news right at the end there. Much appreciated. All right, Nick, thank Crooked Ways. Go check them out. Thank you again, and yeah, we'll put something together again because I agree. It's just great to connect and be able to kind of nerd
Absolutely.
out
Yeah,
on all this
we'll
kind of
have to
stuff.
find a way. We'll have to find a way to get the rest of the band in here then too
Yeah, let's do that for sure.
for the second
All right,
installment.
Nick.
But awesome
Sounds
talking
good.
to you, Mike. Thanks so much for
Yep.
having
Have
me.
a good night. Thank you,
You
everyone.
too.
Bye bye.